एलएलएम को तयारीको लागि नलेज अफ लबाट साभार गरेको छु फन्डामेन्टल नलेज अफ ल classification or kind of laws. There are various kind and classification of law. No single law is sufficient to control all the activities of the society, so different law has been made to regulate such activities. Different classification of law. Law is a system of rules created and enforced through social or governmental institutions to regulate the behavior, and along with this, it also gives everyone a chance to come up with their opinion. It has been described as a science and art of justice. Law is a rule or body of rules made by the legislature. Law is much needed in society in order to govern the behavior of people in accordance with society norms, simply to balance the damage done by victim against the person and society. It provides a framework and rules to help resolve the disputes between individuals before a judge. Law is not considered as an end in itself but as a means to an end. Law is not considered as an end in itself but as a means to an end. In short, laws are amended to satisfy needs of the people. There are different types of law, namely constitution, the supreme body of law, statutory law, common or case law, civil law, criminal law, equity law, and administrative law. 1. Constitutional law. 2. Statutory law. 3. Substantive and procedural law. 4. Common or case law. 5. Civil law. 6. Criminal law. 7. Equity law. 8. Administrative law. This type of law has been defined as below. Constitutional law. It is a body of rule. It also says about the role, power, and structure of different entities of the state, namely the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. It also says about the basic rights of citizen. This law is the fundamental of all law in a specific jurisdiction. To statutory law, it is a primary law used by the judicial system. It is created and passed by the legislative branch of government. It is specifically written law. Statutory law is most important as it is passed by parliament and parliament is sovereign. 3. Substantive and procedural law. Substantive law is a body of law which deals with rights, duties, and obligations of people, so it is also called law of rights. It deals with matters inside the court. Substantive law already exists in the state after making an act, rules, and regulation. Substantive law defines what will be happen when someone violated substantive law. It regulates the conduct and regulations of regulates the conducts and relations of the parties in respect of the matters being litigated. Procedural law is a body of law which deals with the procedures to be followed if someone's rights or duties violated. It deals with matters outside of court. Procedural law exists when the substantive law violated. It deals with evidence and procedures and action of the court when substantive law violated. It regulates the conduct and relations of court and litigants in respect of litigation. Common or case law. It is a law developed by judges based on judgment in courts and similar tribunals. It is generated in courts. If a similar case has been resolved in the past, then the court is bound to use the reasoning used in the previous decisions. Here, judges play a vital role. If no statute law applies to control a particular situation, then common law will apply. Civil law. Civil law is concerned with the rights and duties of individuals and each other. It is mainly for private affairs of the peoples like marriage, divorce, property, breach of law, defamations, ownership rather than crime. Cases are filed by private parties only, and punishment always consists of a monetary award and never consists of imprisonment. In next words, civil law is a part of private law which defines the rights, duties, and obligations of people. Its aim is to guarantee the rights and duties of individuals. Violation of civil laws affect individuals' rights and duties. A person who violates civil law is subject to civil liabilities like compensations and fine, etc. Civil cases decided in civil court of a country. If someone violates the right of other people, then courts may made wrongdoer to compensate the victims. 6. Criminal law. It is a body of law that relates to crime. Criminal is the part of public law which deals with crime, offense, and determines punishment. It is a bit risky in terms of safety. A crime is any act or omissions in violation of a law. Its aim is to prevent crime and criminal activities in the society and maintain law and order in the society. Lawyers or plaintiffs may receive threats from the wrongdoers, endangering to health, safety, and moral welfare of people. A person who violates criminal law is subject to punishable like sentence, jail, death penalty, etc. Criminal cases decided in the criminal court of law. Therefore, it also requires safety through the government action. 7. Equity law. Equity itself is derived from the Latin term which means justice. Equity is an additional solution that allows a court to tell another person to stop doing something via an injunction. It exists in domestic laws, common laws, international laws, and civil laws. 8. Administrative law. It governs the administration and regulation of government agencies. It governs the administration and regulation of government agencies. Its main purpose is to protect government power in the protection of individual rights. It deals with the relationship of the individual with the government. Administrative law is a judge-made law. Administrative law is the judge-made law. Sir John Salmon has classified 8 kinds of law: positive, imperative law, physical, scientific law, natural, moral law, conventional law, customary law, practical, technical law, international law, and civil law. Positive, imperative law. Imperative law means a rule of action imposed upon Mary by some authority which enforces obedience to it. In other words, it is a command enforced by some superior power, either physically or in any other form of compulsion. In next words, the chief advocate of positive law is John Austin, who defined law as a command of sovereign which must be followed by person. If anyone doesn't follow the law, then he or she will be punished. It is also called imperative law. Imperative law means a type of law which is enacted and imposed by the sovereign political authority. Kinds of imperative laws. There are 2 kinds of imperative law: divine or human. Divine laws are consist of the command imposed by God upon men, either by threats of punishment or by hope of his blessing. Human law are the law by analogy. Here Sir John Salmon classify human law into 4 subjective classes. Imperative law is imposed and enforced by state. Civil law. Imperative law imposed and enforced by member of society. Moral law. Those imposed and enforced by different institutions or autonomous bodies like universities, airlines, companies, etc. They are called autonomic law. Those imposed upon state by the society of state are called international law. Physical or scientific law. Physical laws are expressions of law. Physical law are expression of the uniformities of nature and general principle expressing the first uniformities of nature and general principle expressing their 2 regularity and 3 harmony observable in the activities and operation of universe. They are not the creation of men and cannot be changed by them. Human law change from time to time and from country to country, but physical law are invariable forever. The uniform actions of human beings, such as law, philosophy, psychology, the uniform action of human beings, such as law, psychology, also fall into this class. They express not what men ought to do, but what they do. Physical law or the law of science is expression of uniformities of nature, general principle expressing the regularity and harmony observed in the activities and operation of the universe. Practical or technical law. It consists of principles and rules for the attainment. It consists of principles and rules for the attainment of certain ends. For example, laws of health, laws of architecture. These rules guide us as to what we ought to do in order to attain certain ends within this category. The law of music and laws of style. Nature or moral law. By nature or moral law, it means the principle of natural right and wrong. The principle of natural justice. Natural law have been called divine law. For example, a command of God imposed upon men. Command of God imposed upon men. Law of reason, that is, being established by that reason by which the world is governed. Unwritten law, as being written not on a brazen tablet, brazen, B-R-A-Z-E-N, brazen tablets, unwritten law as being written not on brazen, B-R-A-Z-E-N, brazen tablets, Tablets, or on pillar of stone, but by the finger of nature in the hearts of people. Universal or common law. Universal or common law, being of universal validity. Eternal law, being uncreated and invariable. Moral law, being the expression of the principle of morality. Conventional law, it is the body of rules agreed upon the followed by the concerned parties to regulate their mutual conduct. It is a form of special law and law for the parties which can be made valid or enforced through an agreement. A good example of conventional law is the law of cricket or any other game. Rules of a club. It has been further divided into two groups, which are 1. Rules enforced by the parties themselves but not recognized by the state. For example, the rules of hockey. 2. Rules which are recognized and enforced by the state, that is contract, etc. Customary law. Customary laws are those rules of customs that are habitually followed by the majority of persons subject to them in the belief of binding nature. According to Salmon, customary law means any rule of actions which is observed by men, any rule which is the expression of some actual uniformity of voluntary action. When a custom is finally established, it is enforced by the authority of the state. Custom is not law by itself but an important source of law. Only those customs acquire the force of law which are recognized by the court. International law. International law refers to a body of rules recognized by two or more nations as binding upon one another. International law is a law which is binding over all countries of the world. International law and rules are recognized by many countries to be bound with them. International conventions and treaties are some example of international law. According to Hugo's Hughes. According to Hugo's, international law is the body of principles and rules which civilized state consider as binding upon them in their mutual relation. It can be defined as the name for the body of customary and conventional rules which are considered legally binding by civilized state in the intercourse with each other. According to Salmon, it is consisted of those rules. It is consisted of those rules which the sovereign state have agreed to observe in their dealing with one another. International agreements are of two kinds. They are either expressed or implied. Expressed agreements are contained in treaties and conventions, while implied agreements are to be found in the custom or practice of the state. International law is of two kinds: public international law and private international law. Public international law, it prevails universally in all over the world. Private international law, it is enforced only between some of states, only between some of its states. Civil law, it is the law of the state regarding the law regarding the land. It is the law of the state regarding the land. Civil law, according to Salmon, is the law of the state or the law of the land, the law of lawyer and the law of courts. Civil law is the positive law or the land, which means the law as it exists. It is backed by the force and might of the state for purpose of enforcement. Civil law differs from special law as the latter applies only in Special circumstances. The other terms used for the civil law is municipal law and in national law. In not shall NET SHELL, we can conclude that civil law is the law of the state or law of the land and so on. Civil law refers to the municipal law of a particular state having the binding force. Thank you. God bless you all. LLM को तयारीको लागि इन्ट्रान्सको तयारीको लागि हजुरको एक्जाम सफल रहोस्. मेरो च्यानल सब्स्क्राइब गर्नु